And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us as we bring you, for the first time this hurricane season, a hurricane update. Mayor Demings will discuss our proactive measures that we are taking here in the county. Here with the mayor, Orange County Public Safety Director Danny Banks. Our Emergency Operations Manager, Chief Laura Lee Avery, is here as well. We have other departments. We are very happy also to have with us Under Sheriff Mark Canty from the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Should there be any questions following the press conference or during the press conference as it relates, he will not be a speaker, but he is here to answer any questions should there be any. Right after we are done, Mayor Demings will conduct a brief recap in Spanish. Happy to have Martha Lee Irizarry, who is here to provide a recap in Spanish. We have a lot to discuss with you today, and to begin with an overview, we bring you Mayor Demings. Mayor?
All right, good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for being here. We're here to really reassure our residents here within Orange County that we are prepared for the Hurricane Isaias. If you're like me, that word kind of troubles me sometimes to be able to get it out right, because I want to say Isaias, but Isaias. Is that correct? From our, okay. As it heads towards the Florida coast, right now it is about 400 miles southeast of Miami. I have to say that our hearts go out to those who live on the island of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. As many of you know, the storm has left thousands without power in those areas, and Puerto Rico certainly has been hit hard in the last few years from various major storms. And so we have so many of our Orange County residents. I have family and friends there in Puerto Rico and even the Dominican. So we're praying for them as they go through it. I want to also acknowledge that this is an unusual time to deal with a hurricane, since we're also under a state of emergency for the COVID-19. But I really want everyone to know that Orange County has the capacity to really deal with both. We have some of the most experienced crisis managers anywhere. And so I have the utmost confidence in the team of individuals here within Orange County to deal with whatever the storm may bring in the midst of a pandemic. Since March the 13th, we have been under a local state of emergency. And you all know that earlier today, the governor declared a state of emergency for only the East Coast counties at this point. A hurricane watch has been issued from north of Deerfield Beach to the Volusia-Brevard County line. Our public safety director, Mr. Danny Banks, is here. You're going to hear from him in just a few moments. He will talk about some of the measures that we have put in place, as well as some of the measures that our residents should undertake to keep themselves safe from the hurricane. Chief Laura Lee Avery is our emergency manager here in Orange County, and I'm going to have her come up and give you more details about our Emergency Operations Center and some of the coordination that has been done between our center and the state and the surrounding counties and municipalities. Our stormwater management operations teams have been out checking for potential trouble spots within our community, and they are continuing to ensure that our infrastructure is ready for whatever comes our way. That really means that our teams are proactively monitoring stormwater, drains, canals, and ponds, as well as other sites in anticipation of heavy rainfall. The teams have inspected all stormwater pump stations, including those that we know historically have been a problem for us, such as those in the Orla Vista area, the West Side Manor area, and other areas prone to flooding. Lake Nally, near the Gotha area, always seems to be an area that is more prone to flooding. But I want the residents who live out around the Gotha and the Lake Nally area to know that we too are concerned, and we have been proactive in trying to address that. 3 pump stations in the Bonnie Brook subdivision have been run and will continue to be operated to create storage. The county's 95 miles of primary canals are all being double-checked today to ensure there are no blockages. Our 85 drain walls are also being double-checked today to ensure they are in good condition. Our Public Works Director is here, Mr. Joe Kunkel. He can answer any of the tough questions that you might have today. Joe, there he is. Orange County's free sandbag giveaway is continuing today to be open until 8 p.m. Tonight. That will be the last chance to get sandbags before the storm. The 5 sandbag sites or locations are Barnett Park, the Bithlow Community Park, Downey Park, Meadowwoods Park, and the West Orange Recreational Complex. Visit Orlando keeps an inventory of the available hotel rooms here within Orange County, and what they have shared with me is that 84% of our hotels are now open, and the occupancy level for the collective number of hotel rooms is at 32%, which means there are plenty of hotel rooms should coastal residents need to take shelter inland here within our county itself. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Public Safety Director and Deputy County Administrator, Mr. Danny Banks, and then he'll be followed by Ms. Laura Lee Avery, our Division Chief and Emergency Manager from Orange County Fire Rescue. And we also have Under Sheriff Mark Canty here from the Orange County Sheriff's Office, and he's here primarily should there be any questions from a law enforcement perspective. I know that the sheriff has gone through their preparation protocols as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Banks.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here. You know, we like to say, here we go. Hurricane season, as we know, starts on June 1st of every year, but we really start getting noticeable in this environment right about now. And we know that through this month and the month of September is traditionally our busiest months, where we all, both in government and the community, really start paying attention off of Africa to what's coming our way. So this is really going to be our first experience of 2020 in hurricane season. And what should be reassuring to the community is we're well prepared. We started, even in the midst of our COVID-19 response in public safety in Orange County, really starting preparing for hurricane season early this year, because we recognized we still need to be very mindful of our COVID experience as we move forward. So I'll give you a couple examples of some things we've been doing specifically this week. The mayor mentioned a couple of the most important things. We have a lot of experience both in government and as a community in Orange County and going through many different storms, hurricanes and tropical storms. We know our experience of a hurricane like Hurricane Charlie that can have a massive amount of wind devastation to the county. And then we know our experience in some significant tropical storms like Tropical Storm Faye that could put a lot of water in our community. So we started this week really preparing for one or the other. Most importantly, and we think this could be associated with this particular storm, could be a fairly significant rain event for us. So as the mayor mentioned, our Public Works department this week got really aggressive in evaluating a lot of our water levels in the county. We know the areas of Orange County that are prone for flooding, the neighborhoods and the particular areas within the county that are prone to flooding, and took some pretty aggressive measures this week, both to reduce those water levels and to clear the waterways and the mechanisms that flow those waters into those reservoirs. So we're pretty confident that we've done a lot of good measures right now preparing for if we should get 6, 8, 10, 12 inches of water, which we don't anticipate that we will be getting. Another important message, we want our messages that go out to the community, we want them to be valuable. We don't want to have a cry wolf syndrome. We want to ensure that if we tell you to be worried, and there are particular areas to be worried and to be prepared for, we want those messages to be well thought out and accurate so that when we tell you to worry, you should worry. We're hopeful and we're optimistic with this storm based on the current track that our impacts to Orange County won't be as bad as we've seen in some previous years, but we've got some precautionary measures that we want to ensure all people are following. Our shelters, and Chief Avery will go into a little more depth on this, but we've prepared to open shelters, although we don't have any particular design right now to open any. We're hopeful that our impact won't be that bad. We're hopeful that evacuations from any other counties won't occur, but as the mayor mentioned, we do have a lot of hotel opportunities in Orange County that could be open, but we are prepared for shelter activation in Orange County if that were to occur, including our special needs shelters, that we have a very well-structured design for those special needs shelters, taking in mind COVID-19 issues that could be relevant to the folks in those shelters. Another important thing is our registration for shelter needs, special needs shelters. Every year, we have a process that we ask for people who have special needs to pre-register with Orange County. You can do that by dialing 311. That's an important step no matter whether a storm is impending on us or just early in the hurricane season. That gives us an opportunity to reach out to those individuals prior to a storm, let them know where those shelters are and how they could get to them. So we encourage you right now, even if you don't intend to potentially shelter if we activate one of our shelters in this storm, we encourage you right now to go on to call 311 and pre-register, just so we have an account of your whereabouts and know that you have that opportunity if we ever activate a special needs shelter, that you'll have that opportunity to be there with us. Last point is just a point of safety. We do this every year. It's worthwhile mentioning every time. For those of us who have generators, I certainly have one at my home, and you're testing those generators, or perhaps you lose power in this storm, that you're going to use those generators. Generator safety is something that we constantly have to remind people of. Every year, even amidst our efforts to educate people, we have people die from poisoning, from gas poisoning, from running their generators either inside their garages, enclosed in a garage, inside an enclosed house, or where they're not well ventilated, and unbeknownst to them in the middle of the night, too many gases get in their homes and they poison each other, the residents of the home. So we encourage people now, as you're preparing generators, or perhaps after the storm you may need to use your generator, pay attention to your generator safety. Ensure that they're outside, outside of 10 feet away from a window or a door, and ensure they are well-ventilated areas, that those gases are not coming into your home. So again, I'll reiterate, we're cautiously optimistic with this storm. We intend to have a lot of communication during the storm about exactly what effects we're having in Orange County. We hope those to be minimal. Our goal is that we have things so well in place in Orange County that no services or government activities are interrupted to our citizens, and that by this time, or certainly early next week, this storm has passed us, and we look to watch the rest of the storms as they develop coming our way over the next 2 months. So with that, I'll pass it over to our emergency Mayor Demings.
Yeah, just a quick change. I'm going to have Chief Avery come up in just a moment. But just as we began the press event, my staff just notified me that the governor included Orange County now in the state of emergency because we tend to get people who evacuate inland. So as a result, I will be amending the county's state of emergency here due to that executive order amendment that the governor made. And also, I may have said that in order to get the sandbags, it's 5 p.m. today. It's actually tomorrow, 5 p.m. tomorrow on Saturday. Is that correct? 8 p.m. 8 p.m. tomorrow. So if you're looking to get sandbags from those locations, you have until 8 p.m. Saturday to be able to do that. And with that, I'm going to have our Division Chief Avery come up and kind of share with you, our emergency manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So thank you, Mayor Demings, commissioners and guests. So we continue to monitor closely the path of the hurricane here at Emergency Management and remain in direct communications with our state and local partners, as well as the National Weather Service. These last few days, we have not only been focused on our COVID-19 response, but also on ensuring final preparations are in place should the storm impact us. On behalf of Emergency Management here in Orange County, I want to stress how our Emergency Operations Center works in tandem and in full cooperation with the state. It is at the point that we do not have the resources or things that we need that we coordinate with the state to get those within our county. So we have a couple of calls every day coordinating, talking about our protective measures. What are we doing? What's our current state? Are we local state of emergency? Are we opening our shelters? So we continue that coordination so that the state can support our county. So today, personnel from the Office of the Fire Marshal reached out to assisted living facilities in our community to ensure that they are prepared for possible inclement weather and identify any unmet needs. Based on the latest projection, we anticipate for potential for wind and rain late Saturday into Sunday morning. Of course, that timeline can change, and we're monitoring closely in case it speeds up, slows down, changes track, shifts away from us or closer to us. Given the current path, we have not announced the opening of any community shelters at this juncture, but we are prepared to do so if the need arises. This year, we also elected to expand our shelter capacity to better accommodate social distancing and ask as a part of that, or a part of those hurricane plans being made, that residents first plan to shelter in place, if possible, and if that's not possible, then plan to shelter with loved ones or friends prior to turning as a first choice to a community shelter. So please continue to monitor your local news outlets, but also Orange County social media for the latest updates, which can also be found on ocfl.net/storm. Just remember, I want to leave you with this one thought: preparing today is tomorrow's success. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to the mayor.
Okay, our fire chief is here also, Chief Fitzgerald. So I think, again, between the team of individuals here, we'll open it up for questions at this time. If there are questions in Spanish, I'll ask one of our staff members to come forward, Ms. Martha Lee, to interpret for me if there are any questions in Spanish. Okay. All right. Where's the mic? A little bit of a technical issue here. So we'll start with Mr. Steve Hudak from the Orlando Sentinel. I can hear him.
I'm curious, from Public Safety Director Banks, you talked a little bit about the amount, or maybe you did, Mayor, about the amount of areas that were cleared to prevent flooding. What did they find when they went into these drainage areas? Were there blockages?
Okay, so I'm going to ask our Public Works Director, Mr. Joe Kunkel, to come forward, and he can talk more specific about what they actually saw when they went out and what they do.
Thank you. I'm Joe Kunkel, Director, Orange County Public Works. And what they find is a variety of things. You can find anything from tires to shopping carts to trees, logs, just plain old piles of dirt can be encountered when we go in and clean out our canals. This go-round, most of what we have is dirt and tree limbs and vegetative debris that gets washed into the canals over the course of the last number of months. So it's mostly trees and limbs and dirt and vegetative debris.
Okay.
Steve, I'll add to that real quick that it's because of doing that that perhaps we save some areas from being flooded. Imagine, and this is due to our experience, imagine if we hadn't taken the proactive measures to do that, those storm drains become clogged with all that debris, and that's what backs up and fills up the neighborhoods. So when I mentioned, like I did earlier, about our goal is to not have the residents notice any impact upon them. It's doing measures like that that keeps that water flowing and keeps the neighborhoods from flooding. That's what those measures, the worthwhile efforts of the Public Works Department in the week preceding a storm, that's where those measures really pay off.
Buenas tardes, Michelle Félix de Telemundo. Mi pregunta es, ¿están trabajando viendo todo lo que está ocurriendo con el COVID-19 y en realidad están tomando en cuenta esto para abrir los refugios. ¿Cómo funcionaría esto? ¿Cuántos refugios exactamente estarían abriendo dependiendo de las necesidades?
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
You got
Go
it?
ahead.
I will paraphrase what she mentioned. She said, due to the pandemic that we're going through, how are we taking precautions? If we're considering shelters, what would those precautions be?
Okay, we have, obviously, we work with the school district with identifying shelter locations, and then we have, for the persons with special needs, we have identified shelter locations there. And we work with the Red Cross to make certain that where we need to provide additional funding for people who might want to shelter at a hotel, that is able to be accomplished as well. So we have a fairly specific plan.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot.
I will try to translate everything you just mentioned. I said that we work diligently with the school board system and trying to identify locations. Perdón, I'm sorry. I was just saying exactly what you just said. Estamos trabajando con el departamento de las escuelas para identificar sitios posibles para los diferentes albergues, al igual para albergues que tengan que ver con personas con necesidades especiales, tomando en consideración todas las precauciones que tenemos que tomar en cuanto a COVID.
Okay.
Hi, I was wondering if you could talk about when you'll make the decision on whether the shelters will open or not, and will they be available if there's a shift in the track for people to ride out the storm at all?
Well, obviously, we are monitoring with the Weather Service the track of the storm, but all of the projected tracks have it going up the east side of Florida, just infringing on the East Coast itself and not coming inland. Unless something significantly changes, the winds and the majority of any damage would not directly impact us. We will have indirect impacts, but we're still projected 1 to 2 inches of rain for us, so we don't believe that this is going to be a water phenomenon for us. But again, we always plan for the worst and hope for the best in these processes itself. So if something should change, we have everything in place to be able to make a very quick decision to make adjustments. I believe that the time of day that we're looking at now is from perhaps late afternoon, early evening tomorrow through Sunday morning sometime. So we have plenty of time to make adjustments, but we have everything in place to be able to turn that switch on as quickly as we can.
I think it's probably a question for law enforcement since they're here. Are there any plans to maybe increase patrols if there are maybe power outages or something like that? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Our staff met this morning to go over our plan. We have a pretty extensive hurricane plan in place, so we look at that, and our staff is monitoring the storm. We also have staff that's in the County Emergency Operations Center to kind of coordinate with them. But if we start to see that the storm is definitely going to make an impact, we have significant resources to bring in and make sure we have enough people on the streets to make sure we maintain people's safety.
Is that it? Okay, if that's it for the questions, let me just say thank you. We will get through it together. We're very capable, as I said. What we'll do is transition at this point for the Spanish-speaking media, and we'll do a quick recap for them in Spanish. But for the others of you who are here, thanks for covering this. to start this. Thank you for joining us for this breaking news event. We're here to reassure our residents that we are prepared and ready for Hurricane Isaias.
Buenas tardes, queremos darle gracias por estar aquí presente. Queremos asegurarlos que estamos listos para prepararnos para el huracán Isaías.
Presently, the storm is about 400 miles southeast of Miami.
En este momento, el huracán está a 400 millas al suroeste de Miami.
As many of you know, the storm has left thousands without power in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic.
Como sabemos, el huracán ha dejado miles de personas sin electricidad en Puerto Rico y la República Dominicana.
We realize that many of our Central Florida residents have family and friends on the islands.
Sabemos que muchos de los residentes de Central Florida tenemos familias en esos países.
So our hearts and prayers go out to those who are there.
So nuestras oraciones van a esos residentes.
I also want to acknowledge that this is an unusual time as we deal with a pandemic to also have to deal with a weather phenomena.
También reconocemos que este momento es algo inusual en cuanto tenemos que trabajar con la pandemia, al igual que con el huracán.
Everyone should know that we have one of the most experienced teams of crisis managers anywhere.
Queremos que sepan que tenemos la capacidad para monitorear ambas emergencias en el condado.
Governor DeSantis recently placed all of the East Coast counties under a state of emergency, as well as Orange County.
Recientemente, el gobernador DeSantis declaró un estado de emergencia para todas las áreas de la costa, incluyendo el condado de Orange.
A hurricane watch has been issued from north of Deerfield Beach to the Volusia-Brevard County line.
Tenemos una vigilancia de huracán desde el área norte de Deerfield Beach hasta el área de Volusia-Brevard County line.
I'm going to have our Director of Public Safety and Deputy County Administrator, Danny Banks, share some safety measures with you.
Vamos a introducir al director de Public Safety, Dan Banks, para hablar unos momentos.
And then we'll have Chief Avery, our emergency manager, also share some details about our Emergency Operations Center and what is happening there.
Al igual también vamos a tener a Chief Avery, la directora del condado del Departamento de Emergencia, para darle unos detalles.
Let me just remind our residents that we are giving away free sandbags until 8 p.m. tomorrow.
Okay, también queremos dejarles saber que estamos distribuyendo sacos de arena hasta las 8 de la noche mañana.
The 5 sandbag sites are
Las 5 áreas donde van a estar distribuyendo los sacos de arena son
Barnett Park,
Barnett Park.
Bithlow Community Park,
They're the same in English and Spanish. Do you want me to translate them?
Downey Park, Meadowwoods Park, West Orange Recreational Complex. And we also want you to know that based on information provided by Visit Orlando,
Y también queremos dejarles saber que en cuanto a la información que está proveída en Visit Orlando,
84% of our hotels are now open,
84% de los hoteles tenemos disponibles
and the occupancy levels are approximately 32%,
y en el nivel de ocupación ahora mismo está en 32%.
which means that there are plenty of rooms should our coastal residents need to evacuate to provide find shelter here.
Que significa que tenemos bastantes espacios disponibles si los residentes de las áreas costales necesitan albergue en el condado de Orange.
Okay, and I'm going to have Director Banks come up, and then he'll be followed by Chief Avery, our emergency manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We've been preparing in Orange County for the past week for the arrival of this storm.
Gracias, alcalde. Estamos dejarles saber que hemos estado trabajando diligentemente para el condado hace una semana.
We have a lot of knowledge and experience in Orange County government with dealing with storms, which is a great advantage for us as we prepare for this storm and any subsequent storm's arrival.
Tenemos bastante conocimiento y capacidad para bregar con este tipo de emergencias en el condado.
Some of the most particular things we've done in the past week is preparing for water mitigation efforts in Orange County.
Uno de los esfuerzos que hemos hecho, hemos estado trabajando con la mitigación de aguas en el condado.
We're familiar with the most particular areas of the county that are prone to flooding, so we've taken effort to address those areas, reduce water levels, and plan for excessive rain should that occur.
Estamos conscientes de las áreas del condado en que se inundan mayormente y hemos estado trabajando para bregar, para eliminar o reducir el problema con inundaciones.
Currently, we do not have a plan to activate any shelters, but should that occur, we are well prepared to activate numerous shelters, including those for people with special needs.
En este momento no tenemos planes para activar los albergues, pero estamos conscientes y estamos preparados para activar los albergues si es necesario, incluyendo los albergues para personas con necesidades especiales.
We encourage anyone that does have special needs now to register by calling 311 and pre-register for one of our shelters should we determine to activate one of them.
Es muy importante, si usted es una persona con necesidades especiales, por favor se registre con el condado. Debe hacer eso llamando al 407-836-3111 para dejarle saber al condado las necesidades que tenga y en qué sitio ustedes están localizados.
And lastly, I want to emphasize the importance of generator safety in our homes.
Pero último, queremos dejarles saber la importancia en cuanto a la seguridad de generadores en el condado.
If you have a generator and are either exercising or preparing your generator now or intend to use one during the storm,
si usted tiene un generador y está evaluando cómo está funcionando, está probándolo, es importante.
We remind you to ensure your generator is outside and at least 10 feet away from any open window or door to your residence.
Es muy importante que por favor utilice los generadores y los chequee afuera de la propiedad, por lo menos 10 pies de su propiedad.
And with that, I'll turn it over to our Division Chief Avery with the Office of Emergency Management.
Y con eso se lo damos a la directora, Ms. Avery.
Yes. So thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, and guests.
Gracias, comisionado, alcalde y invitados.
We continue to closely monitor the path of this hurricane here at Emergency Management.
Estamos monitoreando el camino o la dirección del huracán aquí en el Departamento de Emergencias.
And remain in direct communication with our state and local partners as well as the National Weather Service.
Y nos mantenemos en comunicación directa con el Estado, agentes locales, al igual que el Departamento de Tiempos nacionalmente.
So these last few days, we've not only been focused on COVID-19 response,
No solamente en los últimos días hemos estado enfocados en la respuesta en cuanto a COVID,
but also ensuring final preparations are in place should this storm impact us.
pero también estamos preparándonos por si esta tormenta nos impacta.
On behalf of Emergency Management here in Orange County,
De parte del Departamento de Emergencias aquí en el Condado de Orange,
I want to stress how our Emergency Operations Center works in tandem and in full coordination with the state.
les queremos indicar cómo funciona el Departamento de Emergencias aquí del Condado en coordinación con el Estado.
At the point that we don't have the resources or items needed here in Orange County,
Y aunque no tengamos y al igual que tenemos los recursos y las necesidades aquí en el Condado de Orange,
we would then reach out to our state and federal partners
okay, so let me correct that. Si en el momento que no tengamos los recursos necesarios aquí en el condado, entonces nos dirigiríamos al Estado para obtener esos recursos.
and get the items needed and the support needed for our county.
para obtener los recursos necesarios y el soporte necesario para el condado.
So based on the latest projections,
Basado en las últimas proyecciones,
we anticipate the potential for wind and rain late Saturday into Sunday morning.
anticipamos el potencial de vientos y lluvias hasta el sábado, entrando el sábado por la noche.
Of course, that could change if the track changes.
Claro, eso puede cambiar si la trayectoria del huracán cambia.
Given the current path, we have not currently announced any openings of shelters.
Basado en la trayectoria correcta, en este momento no hemos anunciado abrir algún albergue,
But we are prepared to do so if the need arises.
pero estamos preparados por si acaso habría que abrirse algún albergue.
This year, we have also elected to expand our shelter capacity
Este año también hemos elegido de expandir la capacidad de los albergues
to better accommodate social distancing
para poder acomodar los requisitos de distancias sociales
and ask that as part of those hurricane plans being made,
y parte de esos planes
that residents first plan to shelter in place
estamos pidiendo que los residentes por favor traten de quedarse en sus hogares
or if possible with loved ones or friends
o con amistades o familiares
prior to turning to a community shelter.
antes de decidir ir a un albergue público.
Please continue to monitor your local news outlets
Le pedimos que por favor continúen viendo las noticias locales,
and also Orange County's social media
al igual que el social media del condado de Orange,
for the latest updates, which can be found
para las noticias más frecuentes,
at ocfl.net/storm.
que eso se puede encontrar en la página del internet ocfl.net/storm.
And I'll leave you with one last thought.
Y los dejo con este pensamiento.
Preparing today is tomorrow's success.
Prepararnos hoy significa el éxito de mañana. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Mayor Demings.
Thank you. Y la pasamos otra vez al alcalde Demings.
Muchas gracias. Are there any questions in Spanish that we didn't cover before?
¿Hay alguna pregunta en español que no hemos cubierto? No.
Then thank you for being here and being part of the press event today, and we hope you have a safe weekend.
Que tengan un fin de semana safe, seguro. Gracias.
On the sheriff, no? Good. All right, thank you.